happened, honestly.
This happened on the 20th, I believe. Well, the video came out 4 days ago. Today is the 25th, but I think it happened on the 20th. The whole incident last Tuesday, I want to say. But I mean, like that shit was just like.
It was especially after something like this.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy in the video, even at the end of the video, close to the end, he said, "Wow, again, like this shit happened again." And I mean, I don't think anybody that was there, like I said, the guy walked up to the scene and he was kind of like, playing around like it's not that fucking serious. It's 2 cokes. You know what I mean? The dude just shoplifted and he's standing right there challenging people. Like, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? Tase his ass and be done with it. Like, I would rather an officer immediately pull up on the scene and fucking tase somebody.
None of us would have had a problem if he would have tased him and he would have put handcuffs on him, because it would have done a lot less, if anything.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, and then put him in the car, whether he's going to ask him questions or whatever. I'd rather have an officer pull up to the scene and tase somebody than to be like, oh, put your fucking hands up, get on the ground, and oh, he's not complying, fuck him. You know what I mean?
Then you just relate it to yourself. What if that happens to me?
Yeah.
Not that we would be doing something like that, but just the fact that they wouldn't even take a second to think about it. It's this whole weird ass us versus them mentality that's in reality it's nobody against anybody. We're all people and
exactly.
Shit.
And that's what's huge about it. I give you, and I said that to Daniel, I was like, I give you a shield or a star so you can protect and serve me, not the other way around. Whether I'm the perpetrator or whether I'm the victim, you're here to protect and serve me. And keeping, and your ultimate goal really is to keep lives, is to keep people safe. How are you supposed to protect somebody when you're out there just wielding your gun around and killing people? And I said, one of the other points I made is that these officers pull out these guns as if there's no consequence behind it. As if I fire this weapon and you can't lose your life, type of deal. And
why is their decision like so fast to fucking? If you think it's just like,
yeah,
that's like military
shit. Well, that's trigger happy.
That is military.
Somebody even made the point that it was like almost like a mafia style of doing work. Like it's almost an intimidation factor. Like as soon as you pull out the gun, like we're supposed to immediately obey. And I think that's where the cops get it fucked up. It's like, oh, you're not listening to my gun. Well, what's the next step? You already pulled out your fucking gun. You didn't even give an order with it at your hip. You didn't even pull out a taser. You didn't do anything. You didn't pull out a baton, nothing.
It's like, that was that training for.
Where do you go from there? If I pull out the gun and you don't comply, where do you go from there? And that's where I think, like it's almost like a disconnect.
It's supposed to be like a step process. You're supposed to like approach
progressions for a reason.
You gotta approach him, ask him, and shit.
Alright, honestly, I probably would have shot him if he had pulled out the gun. If he was like, you ain't gonna put that gun out. But even if it's a knife, I would have been like, what? Like, you come at me with a knife, bro? I got a gun, dog. My partner's right here.
And see, here's the thing. Like you said, if he wouldn't have pulled out his hand and he would have kept approaching them,
I think it would have been worse.
Yeah, I could have I could have understood more so than the fact that he actually pulled out his hand and showed you that he had nothing or what it was. You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of them? That's like, I don't know. Like, what's the point of them asking him to pull out his hand if they were gonna fucking shoot him anyway? I feel as if that was like almost just a protection for themselves because they knew that he was gonna be shot, regardless. Like like you said, there's missteps of progression. I've seen, and actually it was crazy because it was like on America's Most Funniest video. It was kind of weird, but the guy went into the fucking corner store with a gun. And he was telling him, give me all the fucking money or whatever. And a guy that was off duty, an officer that was off duty, I think it was probably in Arizona. They were allowed to have their weapons on their hips still. And he was off duty. And I remember him pulling out his gun and telling him, like, get the fuck down, stay down, put your gun down. Just with his voice, though. The guy actually put his gun down and shit. Like, that officer had enough confidence off duty to deal with somebody than these two officers together behind this big ass fucking SUV against some harmless individual.
So then, do you think it's more of a person problem, or do you think because it can't be the whole department? Because then that's just it is a person problem. Straight up.
Like your life is so fucked up, bro. That like your life is so full of fear that like this guy just pulls out his hands out and you're just like, no, he's black. He's fucking. I kill him. He's wearing a hoodie. He's no Skittles. Like, oh, you serious, bro? Like, bro, come on, like it's just like it bothers me because like when you get a call, bro, they tell you everything that's going on in that situation.
Yeah.
Like if they said like, oh, he robbed a store and he has a gun, then I would have been like, all right, for sure, automatically pull out my gun. But if he just goes in there, oh, it's a shoplifter and that's it, I would have been like, all right, shit.
And that's the thing too. The dude wasn't on the run. He took those two coats, and that's why I say he was unstable. Like he took.
You could see him like talking to himself.
Yeah, he took those two coats and placed them on the curb, and he was walking around them. And I think the store owner, I guess, had enough common sense, I guess, to feel like, you know what, something is really somebody pissing this dude's Cheerios this morning. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna let him deal with whatever the fuck he's got going on. I already called the cops. I'm just gonna stand here because this is my store. I don't want to come back in here. You know, so I'm gonna stand here and just see, you know, how this progresses. And well, towards the further part of the video, I mean, even the owner had walked by and was like walked up to them and was kind of like, damn, like what just happened? You know, like what's really going on? Like I don't think even as the store manager, as the owner, as anybody, that you could have really walked up there and expected somebody to die because of two fucking sodas stolen from your store.
I'm pretty sure like I was out there like I just want my $5. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you guys ever been like that pissed off where you just like had to leave and like you're just like there boiling and shit, trying to like figure out what you're gonna do next? That's what this guy looked like. He was in that situation. Like he just left home, maybe something that was frustrating him. He wanted to get some fresh air and shit.
And I feel like he just gave like. I think everybody gets to a point where you basically give no fucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it's our job as like that's the thing. Humans don't realize that we have a responsibility to each other. Like it's my job to know or understand how that person is feeling. You know, just to know that they're going through something and that they, you know, that I could be in that same fucking situation. I could be in that same predicament. And that I wouldn't want my fellow man, my fellow person, enemy or foe, to lose their life over something so worthless, basically. And that's like, that's just huge to me.
We gotta start putting a new fucking definition on the human life, dog. Get it, bro? We just gotta like start looking at human life differently, man, because people are fucking. You said you don't have hope for humanity?
No.
Well, there's a lot of people on Earth, man. Some people will make you think that. What?
Are you serious, man?
Yeah, it is pretty weird.
This is why I don't pay attention to the news, bro. This is the first time I ever talk about the Ferguson or even knew what it was.
And it's weird how like a news story can happen and they can change it to make it look like something else. You know what I mean? For their own benefit.
Extend the truth or extend something.
Nowadays people can see the facts though, because everything we just saw in that video, you can't lie about a video.
Yeah.
You just saw everything that happened.
Yeah, but like you got a medal for it though. You got a medal for going to see that, bro. Like you got a medal.
That wasn't the first guy. This is the second guy that we haven't even heard about. That's not the kid that got shot in Ferguson. This kid was in St. Louis.
Oh, okay, my bad. I don't know. I'm getting my stories mixed up. But
it's in the same. They're in the same state, bro. Apparently, like he was talking about it right now. Their police department is like kind of. They're not the most advanced police department, but even at that, bro, they have a job that if they were able to do that same job in the 80s, what's making it a problem without that technology? What's making it a problem now? You know what I mean? I think maybe they're scaring cops into like believing that they have to do something like that, but any rational cop that I've heard talk about it, or you know what I mean, like they understand what's going on. They just don't want it to get out of control on either side. They don't want people thinking that cops are not taking care of them, and they don't want cops thinking that the people are crazy as fuck either. Because then if the cops are not trusting the people are not trusting the cops, shit falls into chaos, bro.
I'm about to say You know what? If it's an individual thing and it's some type of like manipulation shit, then
You have to
I gotta go
understand.
to captain, bro. I'm not say what you say, man.
You have to understand people are fucking raging right now, and some of them are not even getting all the facts right. They just heard something. That's where this propaganda on the news comes into play. They'll put something only what the part that they want you to hear, and then you'll get mad because you didn't hear about the whole thing. When if you heard about the whole thing, you would have an understanding. You wouldn't be angry. When you understand something, like there's no negative emotion about it because you understand it. Like it's more of a calming feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I kind of heard some of the stuff you were saying, and I want to go back to this, like, is it a personal problem? Is it this cop versus people type of thing? I think that, and I strongly feel like, I think back, I guess, more so, I guess, maybe even before we were even born, when we were barely born, this kind of reminds me of just like the NWA days. Like, it kind of amazes me actually now that people like Ice Cube and Dr. Dre, like that they don't actually come out and say anything, or that they don't voice like their opinions after they pretty much their rise to fame or stardom or anything.
You're like raising a generation like that.
Yeah, based on those beliefs. You know, so that's one thing. But when I think about it, and I'm like, you know, this issue with police and people has gone on for a long time, and I think, like I was telling you earlier when I called you, I think it's bigger than. I think it's gone beyond just this racial white against black type of deal. This Hispanic against black, the Hispanic against white, all just full circle. I think it's gone around full circle. I think it doesn't really matter. I think it now, especially today, more so than the last couple of weeks, it's become this cop versus people mentality. I mean, and it's crazy because I've never seen so many videos surface about cops abusing their authority than I've ever seen today. In this last month alone.
But is that like what they're trying to push right now, or is that just like because
I guess that's the hype right now, maybe.
Well, I don't necessarily think that it's just that. I do think that personal issues do exist, and that's what I was saying. I think back then they would blame trigger happy cops on, oh, he was ex-military, or oh, he was an ex-marine, And it used to just be trigger happy cops. And it's ugly that I have to say it like that, because killing people is wrong no matter how you put it. But it used to just be that. And then it goes into beyond more than killing people. Because then it goes into your own personal and civil rights that you have here as a human being. And then it goes into, you see videos of cops beating up homeless people. And then you go into cops.
It's almost like a fetish thing.
Yeah, and
it's kind of weird.
You go into kind of like into these like detention facilities where people are already either handcuffed or already behind bars and are being abused. You know what I mean? And I was saying the other day, really kind of just thought process to myself. I was just thinking like, it's crazy how we don't realize that we're giving people power over other people. Like you get a mentality of power, and I think that's where the personal issue comes in, where you basically don't have enough training, enough coaching, strong, you don't have enough strong people to deal with these situations that you, I guess, otherwise need to have in these kinds of circumstances, in these kinds of situations. And so, therefore, you end up with these people that have gotten a little bit of power, and they feel as if they're protected by their badge, as if they're protected by their background. And then it goes even further. And I heard a story actually of a girl who was conspiring to kill her husband, and she thought she hired a real hitman, turned out to be a cop.
Oh, I've heard that one.
And the cop actually, well, of course, they set up the whole thing, but one of the stories that I heard was the cop saying later on in the interview, he was blacked out face, changed his name and everything. They did an interview. It was one of those, I think it was like a Dateline special. And he said that later on he found out that the girl's dad was an officer. And he said in the interview that if he would have known that her dad was an officer, that he would have actually gone to him first about it than actually arresting her at the time, than setting her up, basically. And so now you got now you have an imminent, I guess, an imminent presence of cops protecting each other, which is kind of crazy. Because it builds, it kind of just builds. And I don't think there's really any other way to...
That cop to cop thing, it goes deep, man, because the military are kind of like the same as well, because they're put into these fucked up situations that has to like warp their mentality to deal with the situation, and these are like their brothers, you know what I mean? They have to get through this situation, but that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
This is a citizen just like you. And just because somebody's on the other side of the planet doesn't mean they're not another person just like you. But this like cops helping each other thing, man, they're not even necessarily that, but looking out for each other more than the public. It's not right, and it's a weird situation that we're in right now, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel, and I told you earlier, I mean, the presence of a revolution is very much so here. You know what I mean? I think you could even credit it to places like Egypt, for example. I mean, they are people who know all about injustice from the men that they gave the responsibility to protect them from. You know, they had secret police societies, but then their own police were also fucking them over and stuff like that. You know, people going missing from various arrests and not knowing where that person is. You know, and you could credit places like Egypt and Syria and other places just alone in the Middle East for that sort of revolution. And I was thinking to myself earlier, just with everything going on, whether it was Russia feeling that they needed to push back against their border people, and feel like they've been silenced for a long time. And I think the comfortability that Americans have makes us blind to everything that is going on around the world. And it makes us blind to the things that are actually happening right here in our back door. Somebody that I don't give a fuck what nobody says, and I feel like it's always just because I feel as if like you almost need to be one of those people, or you kind of have to have those people around. But like Kanye West said in "Murder to Excellence," which was a song that they wrote about black on black crime, black on black murder, and they were saying how people needed to basically get together and stop killing each other. But Jay-Z actually in the song said, like the quote I'm sure you've heard many times, is that you put crabs in a barrel and they pull each other down. And you end up pulling people down that look just like you. And then Kanye West said in there, he said 514 soldiers died in Iraq. No, 314 soldiers died in Iraq. 509 died in Chicago. And Kanye West has been one of those activists that people don't even realize that he's a fucking activist, because they feel like he's so outlandish, like he's very disrespectful. But in all his music since he started out, Kanye West, at least if not once, many times in an album, does he make reference to how Chicago is like a war zone, basically. How it's always been that way, and nobody pays attention. Nobody says anything about it. It's almost like as if Kanye West and Common are the only two people that gave a fuck about Chicago, and people are dying there every day. Kids are dying there every day, and it's a revolution that is needed. It's one of those things where we need change, but we don't need Obama's spare change type of deal. That's kind of what it is. We don't need what's convenient for you. We need what's right for the people. And I think we've gone a long way to get away from that. This country was founded 240-something years ago, maybe 50. No, yeah, 40-something years ago, on certain beliefs by people that were far from perfect, by fucking murderers and criminals and slave owners and slaves and just built on the backs of a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different people, but they all had a common belief. They all wanted to be free. They didn't want this tyranny, if you will. They didn't want to be oppressed. They wanted to get away from a tyrant that lived 3,000 miles away. And they came here for a new beginning. And I guess now that we feel as if the whole world has been discovered, then we kind of just stopped. And as a people, as a world, as a globe, not just as a nation or a hemisphere, as a globe, we become stagnant and complacent in our goals, in our dreams, and what we want to do, and what we want to accomplish as a people, as a human body. And I think it's just from that time that we came 240 years ago, it's like we've worked steadily to be what we wanted to get away from. We've worked tirelessly to be what we didn't want to be, to get to what we ran from. We went around full circle. And another point before I let you guys chime in is just that when I think about us as a world, and especially as America, because I live here and I was raised here, is that we've taken on so many roles throughout the world, and going back to what I said, we've gotten comfortable in everything. Something that you now have to bear, that you now have to carry on.
Yep. And if you don't do it, you're going to feel even worse.
Exactly.
It physically weighs down on your body, bro.
Yeah, you actually feel that weight there until something is actually done about it. And that's huge. And I was like,
you can look the other way though.
Somebody, and that's
ignorance is bliss.
I'm looking away because you know about it. You know what I mean? It's hard not to look away if you know about it.
You can lie to yourself, but you can't lie to yourself.
And subconsciously, I feel that people think that every day, and they subconsciously choose to the more comfortable route. Somebody told me, and I want to say that surprisingly enough, and he was an amazing man. I don't want to say surprisingly enough, but just because you know he was, but Chef from America, he actually told me, actually he had two things that he told me, and I'll cover both of them real quick. Chef said that people are like rivers. He's like, he said like a stream, not even a river. He said like streams. He said people in the masses are like streams. He's like, when a stream gets in front of a rock, it doesn't go through it. It goes around it. Just like people and their problems. They don't go through it, they go around it. And if the stream makes a curve, and you don't necessarily want to go that way, you don't make another path, you follow the current, and you go with it. He said, but rivers, he's like, this is crazy, and I want you to think about it, and I'm going to sum this up. He said, rivers are like the individual man. A river will carve a whole valley out to get to where it's going. A river will swell and expand and put its water on everything else so it can grow. A river will carve out tunnels and will go through rocks and bend rocks and make rocks move. So your river is your individual man and your stream is your people. And he said, I know you think this is wrong because why would people be the stream, which is smaller, and one person be that river? He said, because when people get into groups, their minds shrink. And they don't think for themselves. They think smaller, because smaller is the only way to go.
Okay, so it kind of contradicts the fact that we're not necessarily better than numbers, but two heads are better than one, and something like that?
Even the fact that the internet, like everyone is connected to each other, but we still don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I said the exact same thing. So because I'm a huge believer in the fact that when you put more minds together, people can do infinite things.
Yeah.
You know, one mind is good enough, but I mean, damn it. You know, almost like if Albert Einstein would have met Teddy Graham, you know what I mean? What could they have done?
There's 3 Albert Einsteins. Damn, that'd be some work.
And he said, and he said, he was like, but that's the thing. He was like, we need more rivers in the world and less streams. You know what I mean?
No rivers?
It's really incredible when a single person is put in a position like your example of Frederick Douglass, I think the reason that he taught himself to read and write was it's the same reason that people crack under pressure.
Mm.
The pressure on him to understand the world around him better was so great that he took it upon himself to learn something that was difficult.
And that's huge. And honestly, and I don't know. Well, I know AJ kind of knows my views on religion and stuff. But when I thought about it, I was like, damn. Like when he said that, because it just makes you think. Like where did it come from? Like where did that seed come from? I mean, and I never read the whole book. I never read his autobiography. I'm probably damned because I should. But I mean, I just remember that part, and I've heard it like plenty of times, and I'm assuming that, I mean, it had to have been somebody. I mean, somebody had to have had the compassion enough, whether it was a man or a female, to show him something. That one thing got his mind going, and I guess like he needed more. And it's crazy because when you think about the world, I guess knowledge, as much as of a burden as it is, it's one of the things that you really can't get enough of. Like you really can't make yourself, like I guess it can't be bad for you, but at the same time it can. You know what I mean? You can regret it. You could be like, fuck, I don't want to know this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to have to be responsible for that thing. Whereas drinking too much orange juice can cause problems. Eating too much can cause problems. Running too much can cause problems. Lifting too much can cause problems. You know what I mean? So many things that is initially good for you can cause problems. And knowledge, I guess, the ultimate burden is within yourself.
It's that extreme mentality
that you have to carry.
Are you familiar with Nikola Tesla, the inventor from the 1900s? He was so far ahead of his time that people during this time they thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
But now we're implementing all of his technology, and he was even talking about stuff that at least the public is not aware about. You know what I mean? Which I'm sure, I won't call them governments, but somebody with money is working on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, this information.
People, these river type people, they might seem crazy, or like it might even come off as that, but that adversity is weighing down on them. That adversity is weighing down on them so hard that they have to push back up, and they're the only ones that have the balls to push back up.
Oh yeah, and I want you to think about it like this: the rivers always, like I told you, always have something to contribute. And if you think about it, like you just said, a perfect fucking example is that when Nikola Tesla when he came up with all those different things, when you think about the fact that he overswelled, his knowledge and his gift, if you will, expanded into those streams. That's what I mean. Like people will gladly take on water and then keep on going about their way. You know what I mean? Like, I'll gladly take, whatever you're throwing at me. I mean, and if you want to keep to the example of the forest, I'll gladly take that dirt, those seeds, those pebbles that you rolled into my river. Doesn't mean into my stream. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to change. It doesn't necessarily mean that I want to be separated from the mass of people. And I mean, and that's huge because I think there is a river in everybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that, there's no ultimate, right and wrong way. And I mean, I guess the way that the world has gotten and the way that, or how far we've come to this point, it's almost, I don't know, it's almost, I guess, ignorant in a sense to think of some type of utopia to make a perfect world. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that it can't be better. And when I don't know, I just think about it, I'm like, is it wrong? And I told AJ this, and I want to make it clear that when I think about a topic, I always think about it from my point of view, how I would feel, what I'm thinking about. And I think about it just exactly from the outside person's point of view, somebody looking in. And then I think about it from the opposite side, the exact opposite side, how they would feel. And And that's what makes, I guess, would help me make my argument strong and make me ultimately find myself first. You got to fix the man in the mirror before you fix the world. And then to also be able to communicate it to people in such a way that they would understand, where you really don't have no choice but to be like, damn, like it's pretty much right. And I mean, just for example, this, I guess, like this less is more type of thing, where we eat more, nobody really knows. Should we kill animals? Should we not? Should we eat more food? Should we not? All these different types of things. All these questions that people have to deal with every single day, and it's almost like when somebody has to do it. Like somebody has to do this, and should it be that way though? Should somebody have to be in a third world country and sew my cotton pillows with Egyptian fucking silk and everything like that so I can sleep comfortably at night? Or should I go out and do that myself? But I don't really have the time to go out and do that by myself because I'm working on fucking doing podcasts and shit like that. You know what I mean? Should somebody have to make my Enjoy Sprite shirt so DJ can sit here and enjoy it and keep looking at it? or should Johnny gone out there and fucking done it himself?
Maybe, I don't know, like I was telling you earlier about, we can't really worry too much about other people. Of course, have them in mind, but you have to have yourself as the priority because that's how you're going to be your river and shit. That's how you're going to affect the most people. Yeah. You can't spread yourself out too thin and shit.
And I mean, that's just, it's just huge though. I mean, you just think about all the shit, all the different things that is going on in the world, and it's just becoming, I guess, ridiculous in a sense.
Maybe it's always been going on. We just have the technology to know about it now. You know what I mean?
And I think that's huge. I mean, I've never...
Maybe it's not technology.
As bad as it gets... I was thinking, actually, and I don't know if somebody's proven it or disproved my theory.
That's why it's good to bring them up, man.
But I was thinking, because I totally embrace the idea of technology. I love YouTube. I love Facebook. I think Twitter and Instagram and all that shit is awesome because I guess I think about the ability to share those things and have those things all the way around the world.
That's awesome.
Not so much just here, not just in El Paso, not just in Texas, not just in the USA, but all the way across oceans, basically. You know what I mean? Because I was thinking, but here's my theory. I was thinking, with 7 billion people on the earth and, us all scattered out like we are, I was like, just like there are people, especially our older generation, just like our older people aren't fully up, or, grandma probably doesn't know how to send a text, your great grandma probably doesn't know, they probably don't fuck with email and shit, stuff like that. I was like, okay, so you'll have those outliers, and you'll have the people that are not socially involved, those people in the small towns that don't want to do any of those things. So I was like, okay, but with the masses, with everybody all over the world, if Facebook wasn't around, could word of mouth get around as quickly as possible? Absolutely not.
Not without the internet, at least.
And with the internet not around, could we still, word of mouth, get everything around? And I don't think that it's impossible to get it all the way around. I don't think it's impossible for people to know what happened in New York. Let's say that there was, we just had buildings for homes, and that was it. You know what I mean? And we got electricity, but we don't have the internet. We don't have television. Teddy Graham and Nikolai Tesla never existed, so we don't have any of those over, radio communications or anything like that. So, and the same disaster, 2 buildings fell in New York. I'm sure that over time people would travel and they would talk about these buildings, and we would know. Eventually, it would reach from New York to California. Somebody in California would take it over to China. China would take it over to the Middle East, or we would go back the other way and take it from New York to Europe somehow, word of mouth. And I wouldn't doubt that it would get all the way around the world, and everybody would know at some point, years and years later, that 2 towers fell in New York and thousands of people died. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, damn, that's crazy. We've come a long, long way. From just word of mouth, but at the same time, the story still gets twisted at the end of the day because everybody doesn't know. Whoever bigger,
whoever has that information has the ability to change that information.
Exactly. And that's the same thing.
That's where the internet like cuts that shit off.
And I think that people, whether whether it's Facebook or all through again, Facebook, Twitter, fucking the internet itself, sending emails, CNN. Like I just think about all this shit, and I'm kind of just like we have a very strong tool here. Like we have a very, very, very huge tool here. And like you said, no matter what, there's always going to be some cost for that. You know, like you said, there's things that you can't find in the fucking Congo. It's that you need for this laptop or this phone or this television. You know, or these fucking wood cabinets. I don't even know where they're from. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And and there's some price that I think that you have to pay. And I think that's like the ultimate truth. I don't think, no matter how you look at it, there's a price to pay. It's
almost like a karma balancing of
yeah.
Cause and effect.
And I think no matter what, I don't think you could ever get away from that. No matter how big the price is, whether you're paying in a systematic form like currency and swiping your cards and shit like that, or whether you're paying at the price of some kid slaving out in the fucking forest, you know, or the price of a life for taking 2 fucking Cokes from fucking store, you know what I mean? And I mean, like that's crazy. I think, and like you said, cause and effect. It's always a cause and effect or something. But how can we make our effect a lot more powerful than the cause? You know what I mean? An effect to where we don't need to lose lives, where we don't need to you know, have people suffering, or we don't need certain things, you know, going on in the world. And, I mean, it's true. It's going to be true. At the end of all this shit, no matter what happens, whether we have a complete, full-out uprising and we burn down all of LA and fucking New York and Miami goes and Austin goes and Houston's in fucking water and San Francisco falls off the face of the earth and all this shit is done and everything is over and said with, that's just here in America. And then it's going to happen all the way around the world. And at the end of the day, when we finally decide that it's enough, somebody is going to result in this suffering state. It's just the ultimate truth. It's going to happen again.
But isn't that the same story that's been going on since the dawn of time?
Exactly.
Do you think it's going to happen again?
Honestly, I feel as if the revolution has been
going on already?
For a while. I think, well, I mean, you just look at America alone, in pop culture, they actually classify it alone. You can go, I want to say, I mean, you can go as far back as like Prohibition. Maybe even before that, but Prohibition, I mean, if you look at Prohibition, like, you can almost, actually, shit, you can go back as far as the fucking Civil War. I mean, really, if you really want, I mean, just here in America alone. I mean, you can go back as far as the Civil War, we had fucking issues. And then it was resolved. And then we came back again, and then in the 60s, and the 50s and the 60s, we're back again with the same racial shit. You know what I mean? We're still dealing with it.
It's just pushing it in another.
Yeah. And then we have, you go to like Vietnam, and that was the first time that the world had actually seen a war with modern technology, you know, beyond World War II and World War I, where you could actually see like the atrocities of a strong nation trying to overcome a weaker nation. And I mean, that was like huge. Like, and people were like, you know, holy fuck. And
people actually like, they voted to get out of Vietnam.
Yeah,
like it was the people's choice.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's like huge. Like, you know, because you could actually see it. You know, and then you move even further, and so now you have, which was not. Well, actually, I mean, I guess it was just as much bloodshed. I mean, I guess it's kind of weird because we were still young. Like, you know, like I think it's different when you learn about history before you were born than to actually learn about history while you were alive. You know, before you really fully understand. And so, like, shit that happened like in the early 90s, you know, like I said, with the NWA alone, I mean, that was huge racial tension. That was huge. With Rodney King and everything. I mean, that was crazy. And that was in the 90s. And then now we're here in 2014.
Dude, I think to put it in a picture like this, man. I think like before now we're like a baby, toddlers learning how to walk and shit, and then like well, we fucked up and we stumbled. All right, let's get back up again. I think right now we're at the stage where like we're teenagers and we're just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna not listen to my mom, go party, I'm gonna get drunk, do all these drugs, and do all, I think we're right there at that moment. Like as a whole, we're a teenage whole. Our whole is a teenager.
Well, honestly, I feel as if a big part of the organization of the nation is like that, but I feel like I think a huge problem, which would solve a lot of problems, is tolerance and open-mindedness. We have a huge part of our nation that does not have tolerance for whatever it is, whether it's gays, whether it's blacks, whether it's whites, whether it's Mexicans, whether it's Asians, whether it's poverty, rich. We have a nation that has a huge problem with tolerance that the rest of the world has kind of like figured out. The rest of the world is like, fuck it, like we're here. Like, we got to deal with each other. And I think that's, like, a huge problem. And then that goes hand in hand. Tolerance goes hand in hand with open-mindedness.
The thing about America, though, is this is supposed to be the place where everyone's supposed to be the most tolerant.
Exactly. And that's huge. Like, that's what I'm saying. We've worked, like I said earlier, we've worked a long way to get to what we didn't want to be. What was not our initial goal. And as a people, and I mean people, and I haven't said this before, but I mean people versus a government.
Well, what are other people but the government?
And as a thing, though, that's how it used to be. We're not like that anymore.
I understand.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not like that anymore.
It's mainly whatever lobby's paying.
Yeah, like, you know, it's not, I mean, and it, even if you could throw that in there too, but even if you got away from that, when was the last time you fucking wrote a letter to your congressman?
I did that actually like 2 months ago. And what I did, it actually helped what I was doing.
Well, you!
Yeah.
But I'm saying, bastard. Stop getting my argument. No, but see, you though, you did that. But how many people would actually write a letter to their fucking congressman? I sat down with Beto O'Rourke's fucking head executive. I sat down with her a few months back.
She hot?
Actually, yeah, she is. She was beautiful. And she was smart, so it made her even hotter.
Yeah.
Like, it was like I knew she was smart because she was in the office. Oh my God. No, so we're just displaying ignorance. No, but so I'm like, well, you know, and people don't even know, like, I could write a letter to my governor and he's supposed to fucking reply back to me. Like, I'm supposed to be able to fucking write a letter to my president, and he's supposed to be able to.
You know, sometimes they don't write back physically; they just get their secretary.
Well, no, but I mean, though, but of course, because I mean, I wouldn't expect him to have to sit down and write back to millions of people.
Yeah, shit to do. If he is doing that, then he's not doing his job right.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, get out of here. I think if you're doing it physically and you're handwriting, I'm like, yes, I'm sending this letter to this.
Well, that would be tight, but there's like a lot of people in El Paso.
You want speed bumps in your fucking neighborhood? Fuck it, I'll do it. But
there's 750,000 people in El Paso alone. You're gonna write back to all those people, Johnny?
Nah, but
no time for that
I would try though at least.
No, but that's why you hire a staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like.
No, and see, like, okay, let me tell you, because I got with Beto O'Rourke, his head executive. They send me emails, and in those emails, like, that's why they have like town hall meetings and stuff. And in emails, he says, I will have my organization that works for vets. I'll have my organization that works for like homeless or whatever. I'll have my representative, and they have representatives, and that's the point. They have those people, so that because, and I was just telling AJ this yesterday or this morning. I told him there's no way out of all these problems and issues in the world, everything that I personally strongly feel that I know I have to make a difference for in my life, and then all the extra things that I'm concerned about, that I could, in a lifetime, address every single one of those things and make an impact enough to change those things. But what I can do is get in connection with other people that are very passionate about that particular subject and implore them to make that change and to help them get there. So that way I basically spring and force that movement and whatever it is, almost like a spider. You know, I can make that movement. I can touch those different people to get to those different places and areas that I'm concerned about, but don't necessarily have the time to get to. And so, like, and I mean, that's what like I said, like the.
Yeah,
like,
I agree, but
Congressman.
there's no one, like you're saying, I'm not gonna have this tolerance, man. People just be like, well, I'm just getting money off of you. Alright, then, well, hey, Stacy, so how's them letters coming in? Just chuck a beer and then fucking dip out and go party right now. Oh, mister, he would like to see you take a photo. Nah, just send him this poster. Man, we're good.
I don't think that's what you would be like.
Fuck no, bro. There's a lot of people like that, honestly.
I
don't disagree with you. I mean, just like, I mean, like, I don't agree with fucking religion at all and what it stands for. I don't fucking agree with a lot of different things. But
Trying to fuck our shit up. The government watching us. AJ, turn everything on.
CNN's my shit. It's the least biased fucking news network.
You gotta get your news somehow.
Somehow, exactly. I gotta know what's going on in the world.
You know how I see it, man? Just because it's biased, I get my news off of Jon Stewart or the Daily Show with Jon Stewart or the
on Fox?
No, Comedy Central. It's just this guy.
Jon Stewart.
Yeah, and then the other dude.
You know what I really like? Bill Maher. That guy is awesome. You should look up. Like, I think it would probably be related to like Bill Maher on the police force. That shit is huge. Like, he actually highlights it crazy. But let me go back to this.
Sorry, I'm getting antsy because I gotta go to work.
Oh,
yeah.
What time do you have to go?
Dude, I'm late.
Oh, for
yeah.
Gotta say something, bruh.
It's because you're busy talking.
If we could end on one thing, I've had this in my head the whole time. We don't need a violent revolution. Because in reality, a violent revolution is going to tear down everything we've been putting together. A violent revolution will break apart the internet in the United States. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We need a revolution that's organized. You know what I mean? And that's what nobody wants to take the time to do because they have all these quote-unquote distractions in front of them instead of looking at what's really, like you said earlier, it's going to affect them in the future.
And I want this big old laptop. And
I think if people want a real revolution, people are going to have to really
well, yeah,
they're just going to not use cell phones anymore. Not in the same way, bro, because a lot of this shit that they're throwing out there, man, is just distractions, basically. And if you keep yourself distracted, at the end of the day, you're gonna know it in your head.
I don't know.
I think we're at a point where we're past a violent revolution. We're not fucking cavemen anymore. We can understand each other, and not only that, but we can translate our language to someone on the other side of the planet so they can understand us as well.
Yeah, I think an unviolent revolution would be best.
It starts in the mind, bro.
Yeah.
That's where, and I don't know how to say an unviolent revolution, but the revolution of the mind is where it's going to start, and it's basically educating the people on making their own smart, educated decisions, and basically doing it as a whole, man, because he brought it up the point earlier that there's a lot of subconscious things in our mind that we constantly don't want to do, but if we were all as individuals take the time to do that for ourselves, be the river ourselves, we'd fucking be crashing through fucking mountains and shit. You know what I mean? The revolution would happen, and people would not even know that shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, man.
DJ, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your company. Thank you for the host.
Peace.